Hi, my name is Brandy and I work with Hardin County Schools. And we're going to try to give you some tips and tricks for how to see what kind of work your child has done in their Google Classroom or maybe some of their other Google tools. You'll hear us talk a lot about Google tools and quite possibly have your child's teachers use those a lot. And that's because we get a bunch of free tools from Google for education. One of those is actually your child's email address. Anything that ends in at stu.harden or that has that harden in it. So your child and their teacher's email addresses are actually kind of like a Gmail or a Google Mail address. So when you go to sign in, that's what you're going to sign in with always for your kiddos is that Gmail address or that at stu.harden.ky schools. So if you're on a desktop and you open up a new window, I always Google the word Google if I'm not sure where I am. So on a desktop, we would come here and then sign in or just, wherever you find this window. Oh, this is a Chrome browser. That is the best browser to use if you're on a desktop with Hardin County Schools. So I'm going to hit sign in. If you're on a Chromebook, this is kind of the very first screen that you come to anyways. So I'm going to type in my student's email address. And they always end with at harden.kyschools.us. Next. I'm going to put in their password. If you do not know your child's password, you can call the school, but it should be the last 6 digits of their lunch number or the last 6 digits of their student ID number, which is the same as their lunch number. There's some more directions on this page as to what that is. So I'm going to hit next. So now I know that I'm in my Chrome browser and I'm all signed in. Well, how do I know that I'm signed in or that you're signed in as your student? If you go up here and just kind of hover over, this tells me the exact email address on the right hand, that little circle that this Chrome browser is signed in as. Right next to that, there's these 9 squares. It's the Google Apps menu. A lot of times you'll hear students and teachers call that the waffle. I'm going to click on my waffle, and you'll see one of the things that's listed here is Classroom. And that's Google Classroom. That's an online learning management system, or an LMS. Don't need to remember that by any means, but it just knows that that's where your students will probably do a lot of their work, especially 2nd through 8th grade. So they might have one class here, or they might have numerous. Let's say this is my student. My stream is kind of like a Facebook feed. It might have all kinds of things there, my assignments, announcements, those sorts of things. But when you're trying to figure out, okay, whether or not my child completed this, let's say they're at daycare or with a relative or something like that during the day, and you're like, well, they said they turned this in, but I'm not sure, or you just want to kind of help them make sure that they're getting everything done during the day, and you go to the Classwork page. On this Classwork page, anything that they have completed is going to have a little gray icon. Anything that they have not completed has a little blue icon. So the gray means it's done, and the blue is there lit up for you bright to remind you that this is something that your child still needs to complete. Okay. If I wanted to know the details of an assignment, I just click on it, and it gives me this nice big drop down. All right. This is the directions from the teacher. In this case, there's a rubric to grade it. And then here's the actual things that my child needs to touch and deal with. I like to look at the assignments through the View Assignment button right here. All right, so we're going to jump back in there. Sorry about that. So I like to look at things right here through the View Assignment button. This one is blue, so I know it's not been turned in yet, right? So it's assigned, and I still need to click on it. Like I said, you can come down here to View Assignment. Kind of just takes you to the assignment in its own window. And I see here's what I need to do. These are the slides that I need to go in and do as a student. And then there's this button. This is the really big one for parents. It says Mark is done. Okay, so when a student does something to an assignment and they're done, they want to always hit that Mark is done button. And that sends it to the teacher kind of electronically. So if I click on these might be something like interactive slides, and I'll have directions, and my teacher's going to tell me, okay, I need to read this and then do this, and so, okay, I did my work. Now I'm going to mark it as done. I want that done. Mark it as done. Yep, I did it. What that does is let my teacher know that it's been turned in. And Run it slow. Go back here. You'll see now it's gray, which means I've turned it in. If you come home and you're like, okay, you did this great assignment today, this was the one, and okay, and then you pull it up and you look at it and you're like, hang on, you could have done better, or you didn't follow this direction, whatever, you want to kind of help them, you can actually unsubmit that, fix it, and then mark it as done and turn it back in. Really like this, if there's a due date on something, then it's going to show in red right here as missing if you're past the due date. You can send private comments if you need to the teacher with the assignment. That would be something your student would do, though, for communication. Probably not you. If you wanted to communicate with the teacher, you would do that through email or class time. All right, so we're going to mark this one as done, get it all turned in. There's another place you can look and see what your student has and hasn't touched kind of during the day. And that's their storage, and that's the drive. So if I hit my waffle again, drive is kind of like their giant electronic filing cabinet for everything that they've done. And if you see here, some of the last things that I touched, including that assignment, is right here at the top in my drive. Also, there's a folder that is automatically made for your students as Classroom. It has all their classes in here if they have a bunch, and then you can actually click down to that folder and see the work that they've done as well. Classroom and Drive, we have a lot of people talk about those and are kind of unsure. These are just the places where your student is going to be doing work and turning in work and kind of functioning out of. Things to remember. To be signed in as them. Use the waffle to find their work. Both Classroom and Drive are also apps that you can put onto your phone. And so if you have the app on your phone, you can actually be watching during the day if you're signed in as your student to see what it is that they're completing and not completing. If you have multiple students, once you get signed in on your app, you can actually just kind of flip through from student to see who has done what and what they're doing during the day. So if you're at work and you get a chance to check on lunch hour and see how they're progressing, if they're at home or at daycare or, with another adult somewhere, then you can kind of keep an eye on that. If you are unsure of your child's password, they've forgotten it or something like that, you can call the school and they will help you to get that password from them. I kind of consider Classroom and Drive like their digital backpack. When my students or when my children come home from school, I might get in there, especially when they're younger, check their folders, make sure that they've turned in whatever they needed to turn in or got graded work back. So Classroom and Drive, since we're not coming back and forth to school with that actual folder, these are kind of like your virtual folders and the places that you would log into and look and see what your student is doing. Hope that helped. We're going to